Okay, we're going to make a start now. So welcome everyone to our GCSE Maths session. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at the area of a triangle. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at in today's lesson. We had a starter question on the screen, and in our last lesson, we looked at similar shapes and volume and surface area on similar shapes. So this was a question from our last lesson. Okay, so we're going to start off by going through that question first. Okay, once you've got an answer, please make sure you've typed it into the chat. So going through this question now. Okay, so remember, whenever you've got similar shapes, volume and surface area question, make sure you draw out your table. And remember, the table that we drew out was something like this. We had length, we had surface area, and we had volume, just like that. And then we drew ourselves a table like that. And then we had the two shapes. Okay, so in this case, it's P and Q. We had P there, and then we had Q there. Okay, so we drew out our table just like that. And then we filled in the gaps that we knew. Okay, so the total surface area of P is 24. So we're going to write down 24 in P's column. Okay, and then it says the total surface area of cone Q is 96. Okay, so we're going to write down 96 in that column. It says the height of cone P is 4. So we're going to write down 4 there. We need to work out the height of cone Q. Okay, so that's our question mark there. So first of all, how do we get from surface area of P to Q? P is a smaller shape and Q is the larger shape. So how do we get from the surface area of the smaller shape to the surface area of the larger shape? Well, we do 96 divided by 24, and that gave us 4. So we need to multiply by 4 to get from the surface area of shape P to the surface area of shape Q. And remember, in terms of the length, what do we need to multiply this by? Well, surface area, let's say that this was x, we needed to multiply by x. To get from the surface area of one shape to the surface area of the other shape, you have to multiply by x squared. And then for the volume, you need to multiply by x cubed. Okay, so when we're going from the length of shape P to the length of shape Q, you're going to multiply by the square root of 4. Okay, so you're going to multiply by the square root of 4 because the scale factor for surface area is multiplied by 4. That means that the length is going to be the square root of 4. So it's going to be 4 multiplied by 2, and that's going to get you 8. Okay? So that's what you would get there. So your answer would just be 8 centimeters for that question. Okay? Remember, if you have any questions on these, you can let me know in the Q&A. You can scan this QR code if you don't have access to the Q&A. But this was just a recap question from what we've done in our last lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at working out the area of any triangle. Okay? So ideally, what I mean is a non-right angle triangle. Because if I gave you a shape like this is a right angle triangle, and this is your height, and this is your base. And to work out the area of this triangle, you would just do base times height divided by 2. Okay, we're not going to be doing that in today's lesson. We're going to be looking at how to work out the area of a triangle, which is in a, not like that, which is in sort of a random shape. Okay, so something like that, or something like that. That's not right angled. Okay, these are scalene triangles. How do you work out the area of any triangle? Basically, that's what we're going to be doing in today's lesson. The formula that you're going to need is this formula over here. So please make sure that you've noted the formula down. The formula is a half multiplied by A multiplied by B multiplied by sine C. Okay, and we're going to go through what does A, B, and C mean. Now, previously, we have looked at the sine rule, the cosine rule, and 3D trigonometry. So this is sort of an advancement from that, but again, we'll go from sort of scratch, just for anyone who wasn't here for those lessons. Okay, so when you are working out the area of a non-right angled triangle, there is one key thing that you need to spot, and you need to form this shape. Okay, you need to spot this shape. When you spot this shape, these two sides that you can see, these are going to be labeled as A and B, and then the angle in the middle is going to be labeled as angle C. Okay, so if we did an example, okay, I'm just going to get rid of all the markings that we have over here. Let's have a look at an example. So we have this example of a triangle. This is our triangle that we have over here. Let's say that we knew that this was 4, this was 5, and this was 6. Okay, and this was 30. Okay, let's say we had an example like that, and we wanted to work out the area of that triangle. How do we work out the area of that triangle? Well, first of all, we need to spot this shape over here, where we know this side on the left, we know this side on the right, and we know the angle in the middle. Now, as you can see, if you look at this image over here, this triangle, you can spot that. Okay, you can spot that sort of over here. You can spot that over here and here, and then you have the angle in the middle. Okay, you can spot that shape looking at that triangle. And then once you've once you've spotted that shape, you can label the sides as A and B in any order, and then the middle angle as C. Okay, now once you've done that, you can see that this formula has an A in it, a B in it, and a C in it. So it would just be a half times 4 times 5 times sine the angle, which is 30, once we have that. Okay, so the key shape that you're going to be spotting is a shape like this. Once you've spotted a shape like that, then it's very easy to work out the area of that triangle. Okay, so we're going to look at an example first. I'll run through an example with you, and then I'll give you a question for you guys to have a go at, and then we'll increase the difficulty as we go through the lesson. So over here, we're given a triangle, and it says work out the area of this triangle. Now, straight away, this is a nice and straightforward example. We can spot that shape. Okay, we can spot that shape drawn over here that we are looking for. Okay, so we spotted the shape, and we've got an angle in the middle. Okay, now we know both the sides. We know that this is 13, and we know that this is 12, and we know the angle in the middle. Okay, so we can label the sides as A and B in any order. So we'll say this is A and this is B. The reason why we know that these sides are A and B is because we've been given, we've spotted the shape. When we have a shape like this, and we know this length over here, and we know this length over here, then we can just label them as A and B. This bottom side, we don't know the length of. Okay, we don't know the length of this bottom side over here. We don't know this length. Okay, because we don't know that length, we can only pick up the top two sides. Let's say you had a triangle like this. Okay, we have a triangle like this, and we're given this as 4, this is 5, this as 30, and this as 60. Let's say we've been given a triangle like that. Which two sides will we pick up? Well, first of all, when we look at this question over here, we can see that we know the length of this side, which is 4. We know the length of this side, which is 5. And we know the angle in the middle. Okay, that's why we're going to pick up those two lines. Now, if we didn't know that, if we didn't know either of those sides, then we wouldn't be able to use the formula. Okay, so you always need to pick up this shape where you know both the lines and the angle in the middle. Once you work that out, then you would be able to use the formula. Yeah, it will always be that shape when you need to use the formula. It can be tilted, but it will always be a shape like that, where you know this angle, and the angle in the middle. Okay? It could be like this, when you know this angle and this side and this side. As long as you know both the sides and the angle in the middle, then you will be able to use the formula. Okay? So in this case over here, we know the sides on either side. We know we've formed the shape over here. We know the angle in the middle and we know the length of both the sides. Because we know both the lengths of the sides, we can label them as A and B in any order, and we can use our formula to work out the area of the triangle, which is a half times A times B times sine C. Okay, so we would have a half times A, which we've labeled as 13, times B, which we've labeled as 12, times sine C, which is the angle that we have in the middle of the two sides that we know. So sine 120. Okay, so if we type that into our calculator, a half times 13 times 12 times sine 120, we would get an answer of 39 root 3, which is equivalent to 67.5499815. It does say to one decimal place, so it would be 67.5 centimeters squared. Okay, so that's what our answer would be. So ultimately, with these questions, I'm going to give you guys an example to have a go at, but you're trying to work out this shape. You're going to try find the shape. Okay, and once you found it, then you know you can label the sides A and B, and then the angle in the middle. The angle has to be in the middle. Let's say, yeah, that we were given another angle over here, and this angle was 30 degrees. Yeah, we can't use that angle because that angle is not between these two lines. We only want the angle between the two lines. We don't want the angle that's somewhere else. We want the angle between the two lines that is joining those two lines that we know. Okay. So I've got a question for you guys to have a go at. So I want you guys to have a go at this question. And once you've had a go at it, type your answer into the chat, into the Q&A. If you don't have access to the Q&A, you can scan the QR code, which is on the screen. Okay, just one more minute for anyone else having a go, then I'll go through the answers. Okay, so I'm going to start going through the answers now. Okay, so it says work out the area of this triangle. So the first thing you're going to do is try spot the shape somewhere where we know both these sides and we know the angle in the middle. Okay, so over here we can see that we know the length of this side, and then we can see that we know the length of this side. So we form that shape, okay, like a corner and then two lines sticking out from it. Okay, and we also know the angle in the middle. Okay, so we form the shape. Now, once we form the shape, you can label either of the sides A and B. So A and B will label there. And now you can use your formula to work out the area of the triangle. So we have a half times A times B times sine C. Okay, so we're going to have a half times A, which is 5, times B, which is 8, and then times sine C, which is the angle in the middle. So sine 41. And then if you type this into your calculator, you're going to get an answer of 13.12118058. Okay, so that's what you get your answer of. And it does say to three significant figures. So 1, 2, 3. And then we look at the number after, that rounds down. So it's going to be 13.1 to three significant figures. Okay, so 13.1 meters squared. Okay, so again, you're spotting this shape to work out the area of the triangle. Okay. Okay, so before we move on to a different type of question, I want you to have a go at a similar question and then we'll take it up a level. Okay, so I can have a go at this question. I'll give you 2 minutes and then I'll start going through the answers. Okay, if you got 12.0084045451 on your calculator, then you probably typed something wrong into your calculator. Make sure that you've typed in this exact thing that I've typed in over here into your calculator. Okay, and then you should have got the correct answer. A half times 5 times 8 times sine 41. Okay, so I'm going to start going through the answers now. Okay, so it says work out the area of the triangle. So again, we need to try spot that shape. You can see the shape where you have the two sides and you know the lengths of those two sides. Okay, so as you can see, we know the length of this side and then we know the length of this side. Okay, because we know the lengths of those two sides and they're joining up to form a point and we know the angle between it, that means we found the shape. Okay, so now we can label either of the sides A and B in any order. So let's label this one as A and this one as B, and then the angle is going to be the C. So area of a triangle is going to be a half times A times B times sine C. What you're going to do is substitute in your numbers a half times A, which is 15, times B, which is 16, multiplied by sine C, which is your angle, which is a sine 100. And if you type that into your calculator, a half times 15 times 16 times sine 100, that's going to get you an answer of 118.1769304. And that's our answer. It gives you it says round your answer to three significant figures. So 1, 2, 3. 1 rounds down, so it's just going to be 118 to three significant figures. Yeah, so it gives you 118 to three significant figures. Sine 41 doesn't give you 0.6004202225. It gives you 0.65 6059029. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take it up a level and look at a hard example. This time we need to work a little bit backwards. So it says that the area of the triangle is 70 centimeters squared. We need to work out the value of x. Now x is the angle and we need to work out the angle giving our answer to one decimal place. Now step one is still going to be find the shape. Okay, so find the shape. So we still need to find a shape like this where we know this length and we know this length and we're dealing with the angle in the middle. Okay, so let's find that. So we know this length over here and we know this length over here. So we found the shape because they're meeting up to a corner and the angle that we need to work out is in the middle of those two lines as well. Okay, so that's our x. Now, a second step is we're going to use the formula. Okay, so we're going to get our formula, which we have. We know that the area of a triangle equals a half times A times B times sine C. That's the area of a triangle. Okay, let's substitute in what we know. So substitute in what you know. So in this case, we know what A and B is because we can label these A and B in any order. So we know that A is 16, a half times 16, and we know that B is 11. And then we're going to multiply by sine C. Now C is this angle, which we don't know, that's x. So it's going to be sine x because we don't know what the angle is. That's what we need to work out. However, the question tells you what the area of the triangle is. Okay, the area of the triangle is 70 centimeters squared. Okay, so over here where we've got the area of the triangle, we're just going to make it equal to 70 centimeters squared because that's what that's what the question tells you to be in. Okay, on your calculator, you should be in degrees. If you got 0.6004202253, you're in gradients. So you need to change that mode into degrees because you're currently in gradients. Okay. So we've got this so far over here. 70 equals a half times 16 times 11. Now let's simplify this. Let's work out what a half times 16 times 11 is. If we type that into your calculator, a half times 16 times 11, you get an answer of 88. Okay, so we have 88 multiplied by sine x equals 70. Now we want x to be by itself. Okay, so let's get sine x by itself first, and let's get rid of this annoying multiplying by 80. So to get rid of something, you do the opposite of it. So instead of multiply by 80, you're going to divide by 88 on both sides. Okay, so you're going to divide by 88 on that side, and you're going to divide by 88 on this side. And that's going to get rid of this multiply by 88 on this side. So now what you're left with on that side is sine x, and on the other side, you are left with 70 divided by 88. Okay, now to get x by itself, we want to get rid of this sign now. Okay, you have to do inverse sine. So your x is now equal to sine, inverse sine, sine minus 1 of 70 over 88. Okay, and to get sine minus 1, you click shift and sine. Okay, and that would get you your sine with a negative 1 next to it. And in the brackets, you type in your 70 over 88. Okay, so if you type that into your calculator, you get an answer of 52.69820971. Okay, so that's what you get once you type that into your calculator. It does say to one decimal place. So if you round that to one decimal place, it's going to be 52.7 degrees. Okay, so going through it just one more time. Step 1 is that you find the correct shape. Okay, so as you can see, I found the correct shape. Step 2 is going to be using the formula. So you know that the formula is a half times a times b times sine c. So we're going to use the formula. Then you're going to substitute in what you know into the formula. So as you know, we knew what a, b was, and we knew what the area of the triangle was. So we substituted in those numbers into the triangle, into the equation. Step 4 is going to be rearrange to make x the subject of the formula. Okay, so that's what we did. We simplified it. We did a half times 16 times 11, and that gave us 88. And we wanted sine x to be by itself. So at the moment, we were multiplying by 88. So to get rid of that, we divided by 88 on both sides. Okay, so we divided by 88 to get sine x equals 70 over 88. And then to get x by itself, we needed to get rid of the sine. So we inverse signed the other side. So you press shift sine to get sine minus 1. And then you type in what's on the other side, which is 70 over 88. And then if you type that into your calculator, you get an answer of 52.69820971. And it does say to one decimal place, so it's 52.7 degrees. Okay. So now what we're going to do is I've got an exam question for you guys to have a go at. This is the question I want you guys to have a go at. Okay, so have a go at it, and then I'll give you guys 2 minutes. Once you have an answer, type your answer into the Q&A. Okay, just one more minute and then I'm going to start going through the answers. Okay, so I'm going to start going through the answers now. So it says the area of the triangle is 100 meters squared. Work out the value of x. Okay, so step one, we're going to try find that shape. Okay, so as you can see, we know this side over here, that's 14, and we know this side over here, that's 20. Okay, so we can see that we found that shape because you know those two sides, and the angle that we're trying to work out is in the middle of those two lines. Okay, so now we're going to use our formula. So we know that our formula is a half times A times B times sine C. Okay, so we're going to label our sides A and B in any order. So A and B, and then the angle is going to be labeled as C. Okay, so that's what we have so far. And now what you're going to do is you're going to substitute in, and you know that this is going to be equal to the area of the triangle. Okay, so to get the sine negative 1 sine, you need to click shift on your calculator, and then you have to click sine. If you click shift sine, it will give you sine to the power of negative 1. Okay, so over here we have a half times A, which is 14, times B, which is 20, times sine C, which we need to work out, that's x. Okay, and that's the area of the triangle. Okay, so the area of the triangle is given to us in the question. It's 100. So we're going to make it equal to 100 over here. Okay, now let's simplify this part. We can just simplify this part. A half times 14 times 20, we can just simplify it. So a half times 14 times 20 gives you an answer of 140. So we have 140 times sine x, and that's equal to 100. Okay, I'm going to bring it up here. Now, we want sine x to be by itself, so we have 140 times sine x, and that's equal to 100. We want this sine x to be by itself, so we're going to get rid of this multiply by 140. So to get rid of it, we need to do the opposite. We need to divide by 140, and whatever we do to one side, we do the same to the other side. So we're going to divide this side by 140 as well. So now that's going to get rid of the 140 on this side. So you're left with just sine x on this side, and it's equal to 100 divided by 140. Now we don't want the sine, we just want the x. Okay, so to get rid of that sine, you're going to inverse sine the other side. So you're going to click shift sine, and that's going to get you sine to the power of negative 1, open bracket. And then in that bracket, you're going to type in what you have on the other side, 100 divided by 140. And if you type that into your calculator, you get an answer of 45.58469114. And it does say to three significant figures, so it's going to be 45.6 degrees to three significant figures. Okay, so 45.6 degrees to three significant figures. Okay. Okay. So final question before we move on to a blockhead. I want you guys to have a go at this one. And once you have an answer, type your answer into the chat, into the Q&A, and then we'll go through it. Okay, so I'm going to start going through the answers now. Okay, so it says the area of the triangle is 15 meters squared. Work out the value of x. So first of all, we're going to try spot the shape. Okay, so as you can see, we know this side, this is 4 meters, and we know this side, this is 9 meters. So we can see we form the shape because the angle that we need to work out is in the middle of those two sides. That's x. Okay, so now we're going to use our formula. Let's label this A and B in any order. So A and B, like that. And then our formula is a half times A times B times sine C. That's our formula. And the angle over here is going to be C. Okay, and that's equal to the area of the triangle. So we have a half times A, which is 4, times B, which is 9, times sine C, which is your angle, which is x, that we need to work out. Okay, and that's equal to the area of the triangle, which we're given in the question, is 15 meters squared. So it's equal to 15. Okay, so let's simplify this first. A half times 4 times 9. That's going to get us 18 if we type into our calculator. And then that's multiplied by sine x to get us 15. Okay, now we want sine x to be by itself. So we're going to rearrange this because it's being multiplied by 18. We're going to do the opposite to get rid of it. We're going to divide by 18. And whatever we do to one side, we do the same to the other side. So we divide this one by 18 as well. Okay. So we divide it by 18, and that's going to get rid of this 18 that we have over here. Now we're left with sine x on the left, and that's equal to 15 over 18. And we don't want sine x by itself, we want x by itself. So we're going to get rid of this sign. So that means we need to inverse sine the other side. So we're going to be left with x on this side, and then we're going to be left with sine to the negative 1 of 15 over 18 on the other side. And if we type that into our calculator, that's going to get us an answer of 56.44269024. It says to 3 significant figures. So 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds down, so it's going to be 56.4 degrees to 3 significant figures. Okay,